the entity Giggle, one of the newest entities being added into Roblox Doors, especially within the Doors Floor 2 update. When the entity was first introduced, it seemed very interesting as it likes to laugh a lot. But what was the true inspiration for this creature, and how was it developed for the game? Well, we'll actually talk with the developers of Roblox Doors in order to find the true origin of this interesting entity. So make sure you watch the whole entire video and 5,000 likes so I can do more for other entities. First, we need to describe who Giggle really is. Well, Giggles are prematured versions of Grubbles containing a pinkish light gray tone, as they contain 4 tentacles, 2 primary eyes, 2 smaller pairs of pink eyes, and a large smile. These entities like to cling to ceilings where they remain undisturbed and attack by dropping from the top in order to latch onto any enemies in their location. It is noted that Giggles have a hard time of keeping quiet according to the guiding light, as they constantly laugh about something going on in their minds. The eyes are also very sensitive as well, which can easily be blinded by players shining a light source on them, such as flashlights and laser pointers. The entity made its first official appearance during the Floor 2 teasers being uploaded on the L-Splash channel. Here, we can see a screenshot of a side profile view of Giggle, which does show their older model being clinged to the player's face. Due to this event, these entities are also referred to as facehuggers, since they do have a close resemblance to the Alien franchise and also to headcrabs from the Half-Life series. Diving into the origin of the Giggle reveals some interesting details, especially as we ended up reaching out to Redibles, the co-developer for Roblox Doors, in order to obtain more information and confirmations within the identity of this unique creature. First, we asked Redibles when did they get the idea for the Giggle, to which they replied back stating that Giggle's appearance and existence was planned before Floor 2 was even in development. The development of the Giggle actually goes way back to when the developers were first working on the first floor of the game, as the Giggle was actually inspired by the cave leeches from the Deep Rock Galactic and crablets from Boneworks, which were both inspired by the head crabs and barnacles from Half-Life. So in a way, it was indirectly inspired by Half-Life, as quoted by the developer. The entity's first model did appear from its first version, which does feature a more oval shape, similar to the figure's head. But the face was nothing more than a round mouth with a bunch of teeth, and while the Doors wiki does say that this was a leaked and unfinished model for the Giggle, this is actually considered a fake model. Redibles did confirm this on our conversation, that it was never created by them or the team, and is false information, interestingly enough. There was also a remade version of this that can also show a glimpse of what the Giggle may have looked like, but it was confirmed by Redibles once again that Giggle has always looked the way he does now, even during the entity's development. Though with some minor changes, originally the Giggle did have black eyes according to the co-developer, and they also tried experimenting with color variants for Giggles so that instead of the red tint, there could be blue or green tinted ones. But they decided to stick with the red tint overall and instead gave the color variants to Gloombats, which is also very interesting. So there were going to be different colored versions of Giggles, but this ended up being completely scrapped. Could this have also meant that Grumbles were going to be receiving different colors as well? It could be a possibility. But what about the bald screech? This was a visual bug that did apply to the screeches in the past by not loading in their slime, and so I asked Redibles if the bald screech bug had any influence on the Giggle entity, especially since both of them did look very similar. But no, Redibles does confirm that all of this stuff was already planned literally years in advance. There's been major changes to the entity's core ideas, and Redibles does confirm this even further. I asked the co-developer whether or not they're always meant to be a ceiling-based entity, or if there were other concepts for the entity, and this was an interesting question, especially since it could have been possible to see Giggle running around on the ground, or maybe even within water environments as well. Readables ended up mentioning that the original plan was to keep them on the ceiling, but they were considering on changing it, especially since it was very similar to the snare entity, but being on the ceiling instead of the floor, so they decided to keep the original idea, interestingly enough. Alright, but why Giggle? Why couldn't the developers name this entity anything else than simply Giggle? We know that the entity loves to laugh, and that's just its character, but I did ultimately ask Readables, why did you come up with the name of the entity? To which they responded that we were deciding between the name Giggle and Chuckle, but we went with Giggle because Chuckle is too close to Chucky, which is already a very popular horror character that also has its own horror movie being built. Now that is very interesting to see, especially considering the nature of the entity. But I know a lot of you are probably wondering exactly where they sourced the sound effects for this entity. Some may be thinking that the developers themselves probably recorded the laugh in order to use it, but it actually goes way deeper than that. Readables did go on to saying that not the Giggle, but the Grumble's laugh are all done by Undead King 345, the same guy that did Seek's voice acting for the April Fool's update. Though the Grumble's laugh from the trailer was done by the co-developer themselves. A bit interesting to see that they didn't end up using their own laugh, but it does make the entity iconic as we currently know it. Diving deeper into its strange origin and development though, does share some more interesting facts, such as questioning Readables if there are any Easter eggs related to the entity that most players missed. Are there actually more deeper secrets that we don't know about this entity, and how can we apply them to the game and or lore? Readables mentioned something very interesting here. The Giggle was actually on top of the ceiling in the sneak peek they posted a long time ago, as you can just barely make out the entity right above the track where they were hit and killed by the minecart. So the fact that we ended up missing out on this all these months ago is pretty shocking, but Readables did go on to say even more about the entity's developments, one of which being I asked whether or not there were any funny bugs and glitches that happened, and also what was the biggest challenge of integrating Giggle into Doors, to which they responded that the biggest issue was trying to have them not clipped inside props and models on ceilings such as stalactites, as we can kind of notice that the Giggles do like to glitch out and hide within the models more and more, so the developers do have to fix that still. But they also mentioned that originally Giggle would end up flying away after attacking, and sometimes would fly and ricochet into stuff, which is very funny. Imagine playing pinball but with the Giggle. That's a good way to describe that type of scenario. With Giggle on the roof, it does indeed increase the tension and horror factor when it comes to Doors Floor 2. Players are constantly going to be nervous and always looking up into the air in order to find these little critters, compared to Floor 1 where there are no such threats that could be attacked from above. It causes a psychological effect on players, which forces them to be more alert to their surroundings. It goes even deeper within the audio files, as their iconic creepy laughs does dip into the horror game theory, as many other horror franchises do use these types of characteristics. Diving even deeper does show some interesting details, including how the entity actually works within the game as well. The wiki does state that when players are looking at the entity, its cone of vision of attacking players is drastically reduced compared to when you go near the entity while looking at it. So we decided to ask Readables if that was the case, to which they replied, actually no, the Giggle just has a cylindrical area below them that he will get you in, though if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it at least attempts to make it not directly against a wall, so you may have a chance to squeeze through unnoticed, unless the room is just too skinny. So it appears that the attack cone for the entity is going to be the same no matter if you look at the entity or not, and it's also interesting because the jump scare of the Giggle, other than the laugh, is the same exact sound effect as Timothy's jump scare, though it is much quieter. You also can't forget the fact that the figure was actually able to squash the giggle if it got too close to the entity, to which Redables mentions that it's simply because Giggles makes it a lot of noise, and logically that would attract and annoy figure. It was an animation that was created by the developers within Roblox Studio, as we first found evidence of this from the sound files within the game's files. There's also a deeper connection that one can speculate and theorize when it comes to Giggles and Screeches. One being that Screeches are able to infect Giggles due to the Seek Slime corruption, which transforms them into Screeches by adding an extra 2 tentacles and causing their 2 main eyes to glow, enhancing their vision. It also explains all the piles of dead Screech that can be found around the Grumble nests, but these are simply theories at the moment. For all we know currently, Giggles are essentially babies from Grumbles, as they are the prematured versions, and though they do like to travel outside their nesting grounds, since you can find them everywhere around the mines. Redables did have something interesting to say about this though. They did mention that originally Giggles were planned to be all over the nest, and they also had an idea where there would be big piles of Giggles on the Queen Grumble's back, just like how spiders carried their eggs and babies on their backs. They ended up not doing the Giggles within the nest. It's already big and annoying and very difficult as it is, and I'm pretty sure dealing with Giggles within the nest would have just made things so much more worse. They also decided not to do the Giggles on the Queen Grumble's back because that would be extra rig models that you'd probably only see once during the run anyway. But it is always very interesting to see the what ifs, especially when it comes to the game's development. But what do you think? Make sure you like and subscribe for more, and take care.